Hey y'all, welcome to the Southern Appalachian Herbal Podcast. I'm Judson Carroll and I'm an herbalist. I'm also a wild crafter, a gardener, and herb grower. I'm coming to you from high atop the beautiful Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina, just a stone's throw from the Tennessee line, overlooking the Pisgah National Forest. Absolutely surrounded by the bounty of God's green earth. I spent most of my life wandering these mountains and learning about plants from the old timers and all sorts of characters. On this show, we'll talk about herbs and how to use them, how to find them, how to grow them, how to make preparations. We'll talk about a lot of things. We can also talk about permaculture, homesteading, foraging, and living off the land. Most anything, really. You can email me at southernappalachianherbs@gmail.com if you have a question or a comment. You can also contact me through the Grow Network, where I'm a regular contributor and a moderator for the forums. And my blog is, of course, southernappalachianherbs@blogspot.com. All right, y'all. I'm going to sit my guitar down and let's talk about herbs.
Hey y'all, welcome to this week's show. Got a few updates and announcements to make, but I tell you, I am beat today. You'll find out why. So I really haven't been at my home in the mountains much over the past couple of months. Had some family issues to take care of down in the center part of the state, and it has gotten out of control. Let me tell you. Uh, I've told you before where I live. It's the higher mountains of the Blue Ridge. There's a large mountain over 5,000 feet peak right behind me, and I'm in a valley with the river right across the street. And that combines to give us about 270 days a year average precipitation. And in late spring, if you're not cutting the grass every week or two, and if you're not constantly pulling vines and trimming things back, it just takes over. I mean, all that rain, all the heat of late spring, and just the rampant, lush vibrancy of all the stuff that grows. So I got back up to my place in the mountains last week, and the grass was almost knee high. There were all kinds of vines growing through everything. The bushes that I actually pruned and trimmed back just last fall were already just up and out of control. I mean, there are just plants everywhere. And it was creating quite a habitat too. I went out and started just pulling some weeds and such from the walkway and found some rabbits living right there at my back door and walked around into the front yard. And a black bear had not only come into the yard and decided to chew off part of one of my gutters, one of the downspouts from a gutter for no apparent reason. It was full of bare tooth holes, but had left big piles of poop all in the yard. So I had to just get crazy busy cutting the grass, taking out my machete and just chopping weeds and chopping vines, pulling vines like crazy. I've got so many vines that'll just take over the yard from something that's sort of like a wild hydrangea in a vine form. I have yet to be able to really identify and nail down what this plant is. To carrying flower and your briars and such as that, and lots of wild blackberries that the birds drop seeds all around, all just all kinds of stuff. But one of the weeds that was really coming up very rampantly, to put it mildly, is actually a very useful herb. So I went ahead and I recorded one of my Herbal Medicine 101 videos, and it's posted now on Rumble and Odyssey. As soon as they give me the link, I'm going to send it out. Sometimes Rumble can be kind of slow to get you that link. It is jewelweed or touch me not. This is one of the best herbs that and wild edibles. I mean, I think everyone should know this to be able to identify it. You're going to find it all over in the woods and the mountains. It's been used for hundreds, thousands of years. I mean, I remember a couple years ago I was looking through Brother Aloysius's herbal, and of course he was Father Nake's protege, and he would provide a Latin name for, and an English name and a German name for everything. And this one, it was Noli Me Tangere. And I thought, Noli Me Tangere. I was just starting to learn Latin, and I realized that means touch me not. Noli means do not. Me is me, of course, and Tingere is to touch, the act of touching, actually. It's the same word we get like tango from the dance, the tango, it means to touch. Tango would actually mean I touch. But anyway, herb with a very, interesting history of use, and it's from Native American to German folk medicine to going as far back, British folk medicine, everything you can find. People have known and used the touch me not. It is called the touch me not because when it forms seeds, they form these little pods, and if you just barely touch them, they explode into thousands of little tiny, almost microscopic seeds everywhere. So that's why it's called touch me not. When this plant comes up in the spring, it is one of our best wild edibles. The shoots can be picked and prepared just like asparagus. They really taste a lot like asparagus. So I went ahead and did a video on touch me not. Now, why is touch me not important? Well, not only does it have edible properties and all that, it is the very best cure for poison ivy and poison oak and such as that. Mountain legend says wherever you find poison ivy growing, you're going to have touch me not growing right beside it. The remedy grows right beside the cause of the malady. I am very thankful that I do not have, and it doesn't work in the opposite way. I have a yard full of orange and yellow touch me nots, or jewelweed, if you prefer that name. But I don't have poison ivy and poison oak in my yard in the mountains. Now, where I've been helping out a family member down in the sand hills, I've got a ton of poison oak that I've been dealing with, trying to kill all that off and rip it up and get it out of there because, I mean, it's just, I hate poison oak. If I look at poison oak, I get a rash. And touch me nots don't grow around there. It's a mountain plant. There are other plants you can use, but really touch me not is the best. And in think it was Yule Gibbons stalking the wild asparagus, or no, it was probably stalking the medicinal herbs. He wrote that in the 60s, and he was citing medical studies, that proved the efficacy of Touch Me Not, not only as a soothing gel, the gel inside the stalk is a lot like aloe, for the rash. It makes it, reduces inflammation, reduces the itching, but also they applied it before handling poison ivy and poison oak, and it showed a dramatic effect in preventing the poison oak or poison ivy from causing the contact dermatitis, causing that rash. It blocked the oils from the plant of the poison ivy leaves. A wonderful herb to have around. It's also used for burns, wounds. It can be used as a poultice. It's just it's a great herb. So I didn't pull them all up. Don't worry. I left a patch in case I need them. And of course, the woods are just full of them, actually. So I have that one plant just everywhere in the mountains. And I thought, hey, what a good opportunity to go ahead and restart the Herbal Medicine 101 videos that I put out on Rumble and Odyssey. So that one will go out this week, and you will see what I'm dealing with in that in that yard when I show you the rampant, uh, what's the word, verdant, the rampant and verdant growth is all around me. You will be amazed. I mean, I literally had to like hack through parts of my yard with a machete. That's how quickly and densely things grow up there. And I show you with just like panning the camera around not even a 10 square foot area. I mean, I show you like a 5 foot patch, and right in front of you there are dozens of herbs, dozens, and all kinds of ferns and all kinds of flowers and all kinds of just everything you can imagine. Hostas, I have hostas just everywhere. They're huge hostas. And that's another plant I really like. Hosta doesn't have a lot of medicinal use, but it's an excellent wild edible. And apparently a nice place for rabbits to live. I have a bunch of hostas right beside a fire bush or burning bush. A really pretty plant, by the way. It has some medicinal uses, but some toxicity as well. We'll get into that in the videos. But the rabbits were living right there, right under those hostas, right under that bush. And I don't even know how many bear are now using my yard as a toilet. I have to, as soon as the season opens, um, or before, if the bear gets aggressive and actually, tries to get in the house, obviously you don't shoot a bear out of season unless the bear is threatening you. But as soon as it is bear season and I get a nice cold day, I guess I'm going to be just sitting on the front porch at night, waiting to see what happens, and trying to take it during, legal time. And bear meat, of course, is absolutely delicious. I tell people it's like a combination of beef and pork. It's like a red meat pork or a porky red meat. Really good. If people have said before they don't like bear meat, it's because the bear meat was not handled in the field. Bears are very fatty. They have very thick fur. That's why I always wait to the coldest day possible that I can legally take one. And that is, 400 pounds of meat in the freezer. Most of the old timers around the mountain, and some of the young guys too, that aren't, too spoiled on like, McDonald's hamburgers and such, will tell you that they prefer bear meat to the best beef because when it is handled correctly, it is absolutely delicious. And of course, it depends on what the animal's been eating. You don't want a bear that's been eating out of trash cans and digging around in the dump and all that. You want a bear that's been eating clean. The animal needs to be field dressed immediately in the field as soon as possible and skinned and then quartered and the meat taken out in quarters so that it doesn't get hot. It actually starts to freeze by the time you're taking it back to your truck if you're like me. And I really do not think you're ever going to get good bear meat if you hunt with dogs. The dog chase the bear gets hot, the bear gets stressed. I, I don't think I know it's a tradition, but a lot of times the bear will severely injure the dogs. It's stressful for the bear. The dogs love it, of course. That's what dogs do by nature. They hunt in packs, but dogs they can get killed, they can get severely injured, and I don't think it does the meat any good. That said, that is the Scots-Irish tradition, and I understand some people just love to get out there and hunt with their dogs. So it's just more of a gentleman's disagreement for me. I'm not a trophy hunter. I am a meat hunter. I want the best possible quality meat I can get my hands on, handled properly, stored properly, aged properly. Aging meat is very important, especially game and beef and all that. Bear meat should be frozen for a time before it's eaten, just in case there are any parasites. That can happen with an omnivorous animal like bear. Freezing that meat, the way it's cooked is, of course, important. Definitely don't want to eat a lot of raw bear meat that's fresh. It's a good way to get worms and parasites and die. But as I said, that bear meat is a lot like both beef and pork. You can make excellent bacon and hams out of bear meat, and anyone who's ever had that, I don't think would deny that bear hams and bacon are far superior to pork. It's just really good. But when someone says that meat was gamey or it was gristly and it was greasy, those are all signs that either the animal was not eating clean or it was not handled properly in the field or it was not stored properly. Now, if someone says that, it just means they really haven't had it done the right way. I mean, it's just that simple. And where I live, there are several dozen bears within, say, a quarter-mile radius because decades ago, there used to be a garbage dump just across the hill, and it closed down when the area grew a little bit, and that became, nice real estate. And the bears still hang out there; they still know it very well. So that's what I've been doing for the past week. And like I said, that video's up and I will be sending out the link. And I'm going to now do just maybe a dozen or 2 dozen of these videos over the next couple of weeks, just every herb in my yard as I find it. I'll pick it out, I'll do a short video, and I'll put one out a week so we don't have as long a gap between videos again. I think that's going to be a goal, at least. We'll call that a goal. And I think I'm certainly not going to run out of medicinal and edible wild plants just within a few feet of my house in any direction. It's pretty incredible. I already found some just really interesting mushrooms. I mean, one that even had me scratching my head. It was the wrong color. Okay. Sometimes mushrooms can be identified by their color, and this is a polypore. It's a mushroom that grows on trees. It doesn't have gills, and its growing habit is like a chanterelle, but it's a polypore. It has pores and not gills, and it's tough and inedible, and it smells really odd, like a musk type perfume. And it was just perfectly like dove gray. And I looked through all my books, I go through all the websites. I think I finally have figured out what it is, and the name will come to me right now. And it's not important because it's not an edible mushroom. But what an interesting, these things were about 6 inches to a foot tall at the base of an old dead, I think it was a hickory tree, probably. And, really interesting. Never encountered anything quite like that before. And the other big announcement is probably what I should have led with, actually. I have decided that I'm going to start doing some plant walks. Now, what a plant walk is when you go out into the woods or a field, or probably be on a nice trail in the mountains of North Carolina with an herbalist, and the herbalist points out the various plants and explains their uses to you. It's really fun. It's a small group thing, no more than say a dozen people at a time. We just go out. I bring some field guides so you can learn to use a field guide. And I just go around. I tell you, this plant is edible. This plant is medicinal. This is what it's used for. We take a short hike, no more than, 30 minutes to an hour. I'm not going to pick a trail. It's very rigorous. May have a little difficulty finding handicap accessible trails. There may be a couple off the Blue Ridge Parkway, but that would probably be, yeah, I can think of one or two where we might be able to do handicap access. Otherwise, I would tell you in advance if it's going to be a rough trail. I'm going to try to pick fairly moderate trails, but trails where there's not a lot of people. We don't want to be out there with crowds. We want to take our time and walk around through the woods. A little mix of woods and pasture would be good. I know some places with some great creeks and ponds and such, so I can show you the water plants. Maybe at some point we'll go up to a higher elevation, a more rugged trail, and I'll tell you in advance. And there'll be some, very interesting plants up there as well. And I would like to do one of these a month, if possible, say July through the end of the year. Of course, it's going to be weather determinant. It's going to be health determinant. If Who knows if another COVID epidemic comes through and we have a lockdown, yeah, the whole thing's going to have to be canceled. You know that. But I would like to do at least one a month for say July through um, October at least. I mean, really, yeah. And that way the leaves will be very bright and pretty as well for the October when we have beautiful fall foliage. And there's still tons of medicinal plants all around. It's not going to cost very much. It's going to be very reasonable, maybe, I don't know, I'm just going to toss out a number, 25, $30 a person. That will include um, about an hour of hiking and walking around and looking at plants. And then we'll sit down in the parking lot for an hour, bring a bag lunch or some snacks. And you can do probably another hour of question and answer. You can ask me anything. You can ask me about the herbs, whatever, and I will answer all your questions. So that's a pretty good afternoon uh, of entertainment and of information and entertainment. And we'll probably do it on a Saturday afternoon just to make it easy for everybody. So go ahead and email me if you think you may be interested in this. Southern Appalachian Herbs at gmail.com or Judson at judsoncarroll.com. And if you're interested, I will send you the schedule when it comes available and the information about the trails when it comes available so you can pick the best one for you and your abilities and your schedule. So I'm looking forward to that. I think it's going to be exciting, and I know a lot of my listeners are too far away to join us in the Blue Ridge Mountains. But for those who can, it will be a real fun, little outing on an afternoon. Maybe you want to stay a couple of nights in the mountains. There's some great restaurants around. Of course, there are just incredible views of sunsets and sunrises and the viaduct on the Blue Ridge Parkway and their waterfalls and the fishing is phenomenal. The trout fishing, the streams are all stocked. And the shopping's great, if you're into shopping. I'm not, but a lot of people come up just to shop, A lot of interesting little boutique shops and stores and all that. And, I'll give you a lot of the history of the area too, I'm sure, because I'll always get into that. So, yeah, just send me an email if you think this is something that may interest you for this year or next year or the year beyond that. And maybe I can even expand the range a little bit as we go on. Right, for right now, it's going to be kind of near home for me, but, maybe we can get up into Virginia a little bit in the next year or two. So, if that's more convenient to your area, or you know, maybe even offer one in the Uwharrie Mountains at some point in the future. As I've said before, very few people even know the Uwharrie Mountains exist. They're in basically the center of North Carolina, the geographical center, and probably the oldest mountains on Earth. Really interesting. Maybe we can get into Tennessee a little bit, but for the first year or two, I'm just going to kind of keep it close to home where I know the trails real well, and I can warn you about any place where the footing may be bad or it may be steep, or you know what I mean. I want to be sure you're well informed before you commit and show up and have a good time. Honestly, I want people to be well informed and learn a lot and have a really good time. So anyway, let's get on to this week's herb. This week, I thought it would be very appropriate to discuss for my book, The Encyclopedia of Medicinal Bitter Herbs, thistles. Carline thistle in particular, but I'm going to mention several thistles because I encountered a whole lot of thistles this past week. There were bull thistles, there were Russian thistles, there were all, I mean, every kind of thistle that grows in the area. There were a lot of them, and they were very spiky and scratched me up real well. I am actually a huge fan of thistles. Uh, Most of them in the family are edible. All of them are medicinal. And when I say are edible, I mean some of them can be kind of tough and then it's not worth dealing with. But the stalk of like the bull thistle, for instance, can be trimmed and eaten like a cardoon. I mean, the artichoke is in the thistle family, which is one of my absolute favorite vegetables. Artichokes are just absolutely delicious. And the cardoon, which is sort of the ancient ancestor, unimproved ancestor of the artichoke, where you eat the stalk as opposed to the flower. Other and several members of this family are among our most potent, powerful herbs. There's Carline thistle, the blessed thistle, milk thistle. Milk thistle is one of the only herbs that has been clinically proven to do exactly what folk medicine always said it did, which is to heal and protect the liver. Milk thistle is it's Librum marianum. It's actually named after the Blessed Virgin Mary. It has a lot of religious significance. It has been proven to help repair damaged liver tissue from, say, alcoholism, or to protect the liver if you eat amanita mushrooms. Amanita mushrooms essentially dissolve your liver. It basically turns it into jelly. I mean, that's how you die from amanitas, and they're deadly. We're talking like the death cap and the destroying angel. They have such, friendly sounding names, right? A bite or two of that will kill you. If you have milk thistle on hand, in this case, what you would want to have on hand is capsule of standard extract. This is made in a laboratory. You know its potency, and it's no guessing. It's not like something, you made at home or you bought from somebody else and you don't know exactly how they did it, and maybe it's not the exact right potency. The standardized extract of milk thistle. Have it on hand because if you eat poison mushrooms, it will protect your liver and save your life if you get enough of it in time. That's been proven in scientific studies in Germany where they eat a lot of mushrooms. They love to forage for wild mushrooms. Germany, Poland, Russia, Ukraine, of course, Hungary, Romania. These are mushroom fanatics. This is a mushroom culture. And they have done a lot of studies into how to protect the liver from mushroom poisoning, and milk thistle is the absolute best. It is the very best. Of course, even better than that would be to learn to identify the mushrooms and not eat them in the first place. But it's still good to have milk thistle and other thistles that are all good for the liver because our livers encounter so much toxicity every day in our modern society, from solvents like alcohol to cleansers and soaps you get on your hands when you're washing the dishes or working on a vehicle, but to environmental toxins, plastics, all the stuff that's in municipal water. I mean, when I got back um, from the mountains to the sandhills the last time, I had been working hard in the yard and I had a couple blisters on my hands. And the blisters were torn open. You know how that goes. I had washed my hands with soap and water in the mountain water and it didn't burn. Didn't burn at all. I have a deep well, good, clean, mineral rich water, nothing in it. No fluoride, no chlorine, no chloramine. I got down there and I washed my hands and suddenly those blisters were burning like I had just stuck my hands in rubbing alcohol. The amount of chlorine and chloramine and whatever else they put in that water was just absolutely searing and burning those blisters. And I can only imagine the amount of inflammation it causes in one's body drinking that municipal water and how bad it must be for the gut flora that's half of our immune system and so important for brain health. You're drinking water that's full of stuff meant to kill germs, right? Well, the gut flora is bacteria and fungi, in other words, germs, good germs, bacteria and fungi that actually work for you and help your body process food. That water that you're drinking is killing it. And not only that, but of course, this municipal water is full of all kinds of antibiotics and such, all kinds of medications that people, take and then end up being flushed down the toilet as they leave their system. And then it goes through a water processing plant, it's clean, and it goes straight back into the drinking system, drinking water. And we're getting all kinds of pharmaceuticals in municipal water. And the liver has to process all of that, every bit of it. And if you heat your food in plastics in the microwave, reheat something in the microwave, even middle school, junior high school kids have been able to prove in science fairs that that food is then soaked in carcinogens and really deadly poisons from the plastic. Your liver has to process all that out. So the more of the thistles that one can incorporate into their food, and I mean literally from artichokes to milk thistle and blessed thistle and all that, the better. These thistles are just excellent for liver health. And the liver is the body's main filtering system, liver and the skin, actually. But the liver is obviously, you can't live without a liver. So I don't think I need to emphasize that anymore. But the Carline thistle was very popular in Europe. It was one of the main thistles used in ancient Greece and in the monastic medicine of the Middle Ages. Dioscorides wrote of Carline thistle in De Materia Medica. He said, he called it, I'm thinking the word was pronounced something like chameleon. It looks kind of like chameleon, but with a few different letters. Chameleon. He said it had leaves similar to salivum, so he's talking about milk thistle, or carduus, which is cardoon. And with that one, he called the musk thistle. But he said it was rougher and sharper and stronger than the black chameleon. I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm not good with Greek. And he recommended using the root. He infused it in wine, and he said decoction is taken as a drink for frequent painful urination, taken as a drink with wine as an antidote to poison. Now, why would this will be the antidote to poison? Well, many poisons damage the liver, and many thistles, if not all thistles, probably help protect the liver. And he also mentioned that it was used by the Romans and Egyptians in their medicine at the time. By the Middle Ages, the monastic medicine, St. Hildegard von Bingen recommended the lady's thistle. And that one probably was the milk thistle. And that's because it was the thistle of Our Lady. She recommended lady's thistle for pain in the heart or a stitch in the side. Stitch in the side is what you feel, when you're running and you get that pain in your side. It can also be a sign of an inflamed liver. So there you again, we're in the Middle Ages and people knew exactly what it was used for. He also recommended eating thistles in general as an antidote for poison and used externally for rashes. Now, remember I said how the skin is also a filter. It's also a filtering mechanism. Poor liver health often is reflected by skin rashes. Eczema, psoriasis, dry, itchy skin can be caused or part of the same condition that is causing an inflamed liver. Brother Aloysius used blessed thistle Blessed thistle is actually called blessed thistle because it looks somewhat like the Christ crown of thorns, and it was thought to have a lot of religious significance as well. And that is Canicus benedictus, used for intermittent fevers, stomach complaints, wind, dropsy, jaundice, hypochondria, and irregular menstruation. Powder of the plant recommended for sores. Infused in wine for scrofulous tumors, and ulcerations. Scrofula is a swelling of the glands. It was pretty common with several illnesses a few hundred years ago. We don't see it a whole lot these days, but it was quite prevalent due to many conditions and also, sort of the unhygienic conditions that people lived in before we had a lot of soap and clean food, and bathing was something people did. Anyway, he said powder and wine used for phlegm in the chest. It is particularly good stomachic, excellent for weak stomachs and intestines, lung and liver complaints. A tea of the blessed thistle cures diarrhea and weakness, also chronic diarrhea. And he said worms are killed by it for good. Worms are killed by it for good and prevents from multiplying as it stops the formation of mucus in the intestines. Worms were also a huge issue, and still are in less developed countries. He recommended using the Carline Thistle as a stomachic, means it settles the stomach, pretty clear. Dissolves mucus, especially in cases of catarrh, that's congestion, pain in the side, and nervous complaints. Cleanses the intestines and kidneys. Stimulates the appetite. It is efficacious, meaning effective, for hysteria, blockages of the liver and spleen, and above all, it promotes menstruation. In Poland, according to Sophie Hodorowicz-Nab, she says the Carline thistle has traditionally been used both as a remedy for impotence and to ward off the evil eye. The evil eye was apparently blamed for several ailments and annoyances, even including tangled hair. So I don't know. The Carline thistle will ward off the evil eye and prevent your hair from getting tangled, but it may help with impotence because, as we have discussed before, the Polish tradition is one of the most intact and vibrant traditions of herbal medicine in the modern age. Now, Gerard in the 1500s recommended the Carline thistle for toothache. He said being chewed, the root would help a toothache. He also said it opens the stoppings of the liver and spleen. Again, we're talking about inflammation of the liver and spleen. Provoketh the urine, bringeth down the menses, cureth the dropsy. So here we are, England 1500s. He's saying the exact same uses as Brother Aloysius and St. Hildegard von Bingen in the monastic medicine tradition going back to the 1000s and beyond. The same things that Dioscorides was using it for in ancient Greece. He said it was good given to those that have been beaten or fallen from high places. Now, here's one I am not sure about. he said, and he said that chewing the root or using it in wine was good for pains in the sides, like we talked for the stitch, or for sciatica and an ache in the huckle-bone. I have been unable to locate a huckle-bone. I am sure eventually I will find out exactly what part of the anatomy that is. But if your huckle-bone is aching, be sure to try some Carline Thistle. I have certainly had sciatica before, and next time it flares up, I'm going to give that a try and see how it goes. He said the juice of the plant being drunk is of like virtues. So maybe I'll give that a try. When we get to Culpeper's time, it's just very confusing. He wrote of several thistles, and I'm not sure which ones, but Miss Grieve in A Modern Herbal kind of cleared it up a little bit. She said that Culpeper had recommended the herb that is the wild Carline thistle. So, going by what Miss Grieve tells us, she gives us a lot of interesting history, and it kind of turns out she says that the name Carline was a plant Carolina. I know the history of the name Carolina, right? But it actually goes back to the Emperor Charlemagne. The legend states that a horrible pestilence broke out on his army and carried off many thousand men, which greatly troubled the pious emperor. This is the Holy Roman Emperor Charlemagne. He was the man who brought Christianity to Europe, Christianized Europe, creating Christendom. He said, she says, wherefore he prayed earnestly to God, and in his sleep there appeared to him an angel who shot an arrow from a crossbow, telling him to mark the plant upon which it fell, for with that plant he may cure his army of the pestilence. The herb so miraculously indicated was this thistle. Its medicinal qualities appear to be very like those of elecampane. It has diaphoretic, that means reduces fevers, action in, and in large doses is purgative. The herb contains some resin and volatile essential oil of a camphoraceous nature. It's kind of like camphor, like that of elecampane, which has made it of use for similar purposes as a cordial and antiseptic. It shows you. I mean, here we have three common thistles. A lot of people consider almost weeds these days. I mean, most people do see the benefit of milk thistle due to due to recent publicity regarding that have names associated with religious figures and religious legends based around them. That shows you how important herbs were to monastic medicine, to the early Christians, and what high esteem they held them, being used as powerful herbs. Even today, the physician's desk reference for herbal medicine lists the Carline Thistle and specifically the root. It states that the chief compound is the volatile oil Carlina oxide. The essential oil hinders the growth of Staphylococcus, has mild diuretic, spasmodic, and diaphoretic effects. Under unproven uses, it says it is used internally for atonic gastritis, dyspepsia, diseases of the biliary tract, colds and fevers. Externally, it is used as a wash for dermatosis, to rinse wounds and ulcers, as a mouthwash to alleviate symptoms associated with cancer of the tongue. No health hazards or side effects are known in conjunction with the proper administration of designed therapeutic doses. I think that is absolutely incredible. The history of these herbs, and like I said, the artichoke is one of my absolute favorites. I generally do it in the French style. Um, you take off the tough outer leaves, cut the top off, pull out the choke. The choke is the thistle part that will actually choke you, and rub some lemon juice over it to keep it from browning, keep it from oxidizing, just like you would do like with an avocado. And then just kind of slightly simmer it in water in which there's lemon juice added. A splash of white wine is very nice in there as well. And when they're just kind of tender, pull off the leaves, dip them in butter, and eat them, and they are so good. And of course, you can also trim down the hearts and pickle them. I think the Italians do a really good job of that with the olive oil and various herbs and seasoning. I mean, I love pickled artichoke hearts. And then, of course, in the Jewish tradition, fried artichokes, deep fried artichokes are very important. In the Jewish quarter of Rome, that was the original ghetto, and the Jews that lived there faced persecutions at various times. Artichokes growing so prevalently around there were really a survival food. And, of course, Hanukkah, a lot of things are fried. They eat a lot of fried foods, and those fried artichokes, deep fried, just really delicious. But there are so many. There are so many different kinds of thistles that can be used. Just looking at plants for a future under thistles that have known medicinal values, you have welted thistle, musk thistle, stemless carline thistle, distaff thistle, common star thistle, Iberian star thistle, Maltese star thistle, St. Barnaby's thistle, blue sow thistle, stemless thistle, creeping thistle. I'm just going to skip ahead. There are 38 different medicinal thistles that they list, and they include some of the, even common sow thistles, even Scotch thistle, globe thistle. The bottom line is thistles are one of the most medicinal families of herbs. I have mentioned a lot of these before, but I thought it'd be really interesting today to get into the Carline Thistle, the Blessed Thistle, and the Milk Thistle. And having spent a week getting scratched up by thistles, looking at them and realizing their food and medicinal value really helps with one's mood. It really helps keep one smiling and appreciate what might otherwise be considered a major nuisance. So, y'all have a great week. Remember, all my books are available either through Amazon or directly through me. I have 7 published so far. I have already written over 100 pages in the next one. So go ahead and buy those books so you can keep up with me, keep up reading them if you like. I always appreciate everybody who buys my books. I say a prayer for each person. That's enabling me to make a living doing the things I love to do. And it's really my privilege and honor to be able to write these books and to do the podcast and to interact with y'all. And of course, I'm looking forward to meeting you all in person in these plant walks. So email me again at southern-appalachian-herbs@gmail.com or judson@judsoncarroll.com, and I will send you the schedule when it's ready. As we start scheduling these dates, I'll send them out and the description of the trails, a description of the parking area, maybe a list of accommodations and some of the more interesting restaurants, some of the family-owned places, whatever, makes it a nice time for you. If I can think of it, or if you want to ask me a question, go ahead and do it. And so I'm hoping to meet y'all soon. uh, that should be a whole lot of fun. I know we have a lot of interesting characters in my audience. I've interacted with many of you through email and on online forums, all walks of life, all different backgrounds, different ideas, and interesting questions. You always ask such interesting questions. Anyway, y'all have a great week, and I'll talk to you next time.
The information in this podcast is not intended to diagnose or treat any disease or condition. Nothing I say or write has been evaluated or approved by the FDA. I'm not a doctor. The U.S. government does not recognize the practice of herbal medicine, and there is no governing body regulating herbalists. Therefore, I'm really just a guy who studies herbs. I'm not offering any advice. I won't even claim that anything I write or say is accurate or true. I can tell you what herbs have been traditionally used for. I can tell you my own experience and if I believe an herb has helped me. I cannot nor would I tell you to do the same. If you use an herb anyone recommends, you are treating yourself. You take full responsibility for your health. Humans are individuals and no two are identical. What works for me may not work for you. You may have an allergy, a sensitivity, an underlying condition that no one else even shares and you don't even know about. Be careful with your health. By continuing to listen to my podcast or read my blog, you agree to be responsible for yourself, for your own research, make your own choices, and not to blame me for anything ever.